Ladies and gentlemen, men and women around the great United States, our PPT partners, and those who haven't just chosen totally to become PayProTec partners, it is time for another high five. Where today we're going to be talking about maybe the most profitable thing you could do a couple hours every quarter is to look at your current portfolio, look at all the businesses you're serving, and look at what things you can upsell to help them not only increase revenue today, but increase longevity so you make more money lifetime on each one of those merchants. But it's not just me on this conversation because, well, that would be incredibly boring. We have two of our best PayProTec partner, or not partners, PayProTec team members in the far right-hand side of your screen, our regular, coming to you from the beautiful area of Tampa Bay, Florida, Mr. Brian Linke. Brian, it is going to be 77 degrees here in Indianapolis today. How about down in Tampa?
Wow, 77 degrees in Indianapolis in March. Huh? That's nice. Yeah, no, we've had it's like it was freezing cold here for like 3 weeks in a row. I mean, like freezing cold, and now we're in a heat wave. It's like 10 degrees higher, so I think it's going to be like 86, 87 here today.
Look at that beautiful temperature and living the life down there in mid. I know the University of South Florida is in Tampa, but I have a hard time calling Tampa South Florida. What do you?
No, well, because it's not South Florida, and the University of South Florida is believe me, they're putting so much money into that school. It's about
Uh,
to go, it's about to go haywire. They're building a new football stadium, a new basketball arena. They're putting a lot of time and effort and money into it.
they're living the dream there in South Florida. Now, in the center of your screen, replacing and making our place a little more beautiful today, and probably a little smarter. Replacing Danny Shard, who's not able to be with us today. Jason Cook. Jason, how are things in Glenwood Springs, Colorado? As you are, 75 feet from the Colorado River from where you're standing right now? It's one of the best locations in the United States.
Yeah, absolutely. It's cold. Honestly, I was wearing sandals on Monday. My kids wore shorts to school most of the week, and we woke up. You probably can't see behind me, but we woke up to snow this morning. So our snow lovers are thrilled. I could do with that. I'd rather be down there with Brian in Florida where it's almost 90 degrees. But no, it's going well over here. We're having a good time.
Well, and Jace, in less than 2 weeks, 12 days, we'll be hosting our party in beautiful Atlanta, Georgia. I looked at the long-term temperature there. It's supposed to be in the upper 70s, lower 80s. It was a prediction. Who knows what's going to happen 2 weeks now, but whether that actually is true. But going to be a beautiful time in Atlanta. Why should, unfortunately, Brian Linke, and Brian, you can tell us why you're doing an important thing with your family, is not going to be there. Why should our partners still come, Jace?
Because we're all going to be there.
Yeah.
I know we're going to miss Brian. He's the heart and soul of the PayProTech family. But Danny, Jenny, you, myself, Josh, Paul, Billy, we are all going to be there. We're so excited to see our partners in person and get some FaceTime. I've been checking out the RSVP list, and there are some people on there I have never gotten to meet in person. So I'm really looking forward to meeting some new faces and spending some time together.
Yeah.
The one thing you can say about PayProTech is we like to have fun here.
Yep.
That's right.
And no matter where we are, this conference, 10 out of the last 14 years or something like that. I don't know exactly. I think it's 11 out of the last 14 years has been in Vegas and Mandalay Bay. But this is the second time in Atlanta. They've been to San Francisco in the last decade. But hey, we're going to have some fun in Atlanta. And this place looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. Here's what I want to do. I want to meet some of our newest partners that we've never met. And Jace, it's worth, the little bit of investment. Let's say you find if you need to stay overnight in a hotel, I looked up, you can stay in the area at a fairly mid-range, decent hotel for $150 a night. It's not really expensive night, as long as you don't go to the ones that are connected to the convention center where our conference is. You can do that. It's not too expensive. In fact, that they're actually closer to where we're hosting at the Putt Shack at our party. It's worth the investment to come hang out. Why do people gain by being in person with us versus just always talking on the phone or a Google Meet or a Zoom?
It's just a different experience. Like Brian said, we know how to have fun, and we talk work, we talk business because that's what they're there for, what we're all there for. But we also put that aside a little bit and have some fun. And over the years, we've done all of these really cool in-person events, and some of our, Nate, you like to call them our one percenters. Some of our partners that submit the most business that we talk to every day. I actually asked one earlier this week. I was like, do you walk away from those events feeling like you've learned something, you've picked up a tip or a trick that you can actually put into play, and it might benefit you. And he was like, without a doubt, absolutely 100%. And that, I wouldn't say it surprised me, but it was good to hear. It was good to hear that the time and the money and everything we spend and our partners spend to get together with us in person is paying off, and it's making these partners feel like they're walking away with something that's helpful for them.
Yeah.
The other thing is, we live in a world today where people hide behind the computer, right? Hide behind the screen, and when there's an opportunity to get out and meet people that you talk to every single day or every other week or whatever it is, I just think that it's important to do that, because it's just so easy to sit in your chair and not get out there and not get to see people, and so yeah, I think it's just kind of a refreshing thing.
It is. It's just fun, and it's not just being around the paper. It's being around the whole family of PayProTec. So many of our partners have joined, and some of them have met up and joined forces and started whole new payments companies. Some of them talk to each other weekly and sharpen each other and challenge each other and say, "Hey, I'm doing this, I'm doing that." Some of them have gone together and work together with, they corner one of our vendors and get them to commit to a new thing. And I just think it's so fun when we get together. And every time we do this, and I think this is going to be one of those, when we get 30 to 50 of our partners or even more in the same building, in the same space, we see people growing and changing and challenging each other and just having a lot of fun. It's just going to be a great time. So make sure you're there. We'll talk about it one more time, but next week before it all goes down, and it's just going to be fun. Now, today, we're talking about upsells, and I'll bring it both on you. Jason, Brian, when you're looking at our partners, and maybe you're going in with them and looking at their merchants, and they haven't looked at their merchants for 6 months, if you're looking at your merchants, what are the type of merchants you would look at first to start looking to do upsell? Because you're like, man, if they're not this or not doing this, what would you look at to first go after to get an upsell to make more money?
It's a good question. Jace, you wanna start so I don't steal your thunder and then you get mad at me?
Yeah, absolutely. If you don't know how to navigate the portal as comfortable as you would like, definitely be talking to us. There's some really cool things in the merchants tab where you can sort by certain things and really kind of take a deep dive and look. But Nate, I was thinking about these questions and this topic this morning, and I think this is where the mindset shifts from the payments guy or the payments girl to business consultant, right? You're looking at your overall portfolio, at your merchants individually, one by one. And I would say we're looking for significant increases in volume, right? Is it a restaurant that just opened 6 months ago and suddenly now they're crushing it? Do they need a better POS system? Do they need more equipment? Have they opened a drive-through or whatever the case is, online ordering? So I would look for significant increases in volume. I would obviously look at margins. Where are our merchants that we're just not earning enough on to make it worth it? How can we increase those? I know that's the whole reason we're here today talking about it. But you can sort within your portfolio and your back office to kind of see these things. You can set notifications to tell you get an email like, hey, this merchant's volume dropped by 10% or increased by 10%. So you can kind of keep tabs on what's going on with your customers. And then really, like I said, we're shifting to a business consultant mindset. Brian and I were talking, and I think this is where we almost as salespeople need to be a little bit quiet and let our customers tell us what they need, right? If you get them talking, if you're consulting versus selling, they will tell you what they need eventually. They will say, hey, I have gotten busier. This would be nice if I had this, or that would be nice, or I have this, but I don't really need it. If you get them talking and you let them tell you about their business, it will organically happen that they will tell you what they need. And it's not really even upselling. It's just taking care of your customers at that point.
Yep. Well, and it's being that consultant, and it's actually, and you're putting the care in. If you touch every one of your merchants, let's say once every 6 months, that gives you a greater chance that they're going to be with you for another 6 months. And each touch that you do to just show a little consultance, a little care, a little empathy to what they're going through, hopefully helps them grow longevity. Because there's two things. One, we want to be able to provide them things that may increase revenue today. And we'll talk about those things, but also lifetime value of these merchants. The more you connect with them, the longer they stay with you. And if by making one contact for 10 minutes every 6 months helps them stay with you an extra 6 months, it's probably worth that 10 minutes because you're going to make a lot more over those 6 months. So trying to figure those pieces out. Brian, we talked as we were just in a little bit of prep time beforehand, how when looking at some of the things you would be looking at people that aren't currently doing edge pricing, that they're currently on interchange or tiered pricing or some type of lower flat rate pricing. How would you start those conversations, and what would you specifically look at, and how would you rate which merchants you're looking at if they're currently on interchange plus and they haven't looked at some type of differential pricing like an edge pricing?
Well, I mean, the simple answer is, when you're looking at a statement and the merchant, the liquor store, the guy's spending, $4,500 a month in processing fees, which again, all it is just a cost. It's just the cost of doing business, right? I mean, you don't gain anything from it. You're paying $4,500 to take credit cards to run your business, which obviously you have to have, because we live in a world today where we're going to a cashless society, right? I mean, every place, they just opened a restaurant here in my neighborhood, and first thing the lady said to us yesterday, when my wife and I had breakfast here, is like, we're cashless. So I think a lot of people are doing that, and I think with our analysis team, if you can just get somebody to listen, I don't know, what the numbers are going to look like, but why don't you just, can I have a statement? I'll bring it back. We'll do an analysis. It'll at least show you what you're spending now, compared to what we can do, and then we'll do the cash discounting, so at least you can look at it, and then we can sit down and have a conversation.
Yep. Yeah, and the beauty of that is for most of your current merchants, I think you just pull their statement from the back end from Payments Hub, send those out and then make that part of your conversation. Look, I really would like to save you $4,000. It's a pretty good start to an interesting conversation. At least it's worth it every once in a while to do that. One of the things we talk about this, helping things do sticky. One of the things we were talking about, like looking at new hardware, looking at new things. Would you identify? When I was talking to one of our partners, he's identified all the desk 3500s in his system, and he wants to upgrade them. Are there certain types of technologies that we have sold in the past that you would look at and say, man, I would certainly make sure I'd open up in a conversation about moving them into something new?
Yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, some of these newer terminals. I mean, I find myself every single place I go, I look and see what type of equipment people are using, and if there's a better option. At least getting them aware of it, and have them start thinking about it, and they'll like Jay said, they'll sell themselves. Okay, I mean, if you get them people love to talk about themselves, right? They love themselves, right? So if you can get them to start talking, they'll start talking about themselves, and they'll make your job a lot easier. But you just have to get out in front of them and get them to start talking.
Yeah, yeah, Jason, what are some of the hardwares you would look at? I mean, the first ones that pop out of my head, I like the idea of going after some of the aging and Ingenico hardwares we may have out there. Maybe some of the Z series with we're still, and we have hundreds and hundreds, maybe even thousands of those Zs of the Deja Vu Z series. They're not out of service and out of date, but certainly there are newer and pieces. What are some of those hardwares you would look at that you might say, look at those and think about contacting those merchants and seeing if they're interested in an upgrade?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a smart way to look at it. I think we want to be careful to avoid upgrading for the sake of upgrading, right? But like Brian and I have both said, opening the conversation, right? Identifying those merchants that do have those aging Ingenico terminals that we know will likely be end of life in the near future, and calling them, reaching out, like, hey, is it still doing what you need it to do? Is it not doing something that you would like it to do? I think that's a better question to ask than anything else. Like, is there something that would make your life easier that it's not doing? And then we can find a solution that does. And so, again, opening that conversation, checking in, talking to them, hearing about, has the way they operated their business changed? I helped a partner recently that had a merchant that was like a sit-down full-service restaurant, and they did catering on the side. Well, then the catering took off and they closed their restaurant. So the entire premise around their business changed. and they needed an online option for sending invoices and getting a deposit for a catering order and things like that. So just keeping tabs on them, staying in touch with them, like you're saying, a quarterly or every 6 month check-in. If it's a restaurant or a coffee shop, or like Brian was saying, a liquor store, like go have lunch, grab a cup of coffee. If your customers or your merchants see you being their customer, especially, I don't know about you guys, but I live in a real small town here, and we really like to support local. So if I had a merchant and I stopped in for lunch one day, they're like, hey, I would do business with them and they're supporting my business, and that's pretty cool. So things like that, small things, I think make a difference when we were trying to keep them for the long term.
So there are multiple different types of upsells. I don't even like that term, but I couldn't come up with a better thing. That's just kind of our trend. Hey, we're going to upsell our current merchants. But as we consult with them, things they may need gift cards. They may need a new POS, and certainly trying to identify those merchants that have always stayed on the terminal, and they've said they want to stay on the terminal, but contacting them regularly, because you want to be the first one in line when they finally give up and decide, man, I really need a full POS. But another thing is merchants who need funding. And Brian, I'm going to put this one to you, because I know you have a lot of experience working in this MCA, merchant cash advance area, and helping merchants get set up with MCAs and look at what are the values of setting your merchants up with funding, and what are some of those opportunities that I think a lot of our partners are missing out. Because the number one reason we don't move someone off of Square is because they have Square Capital. Most of the other things, we have everything else. But if they've taken Square's version of an MCA out, they don't want to leave Square because they want to make sure they have that funding. Brian, what have you learned about merchants needing that MCA, and what the opportunity there is for an upsell, and why you found it a good thing for a lot of merchants that you've worked with?
Well, the first thing is everybody needs the money. Everybody, every merchant, whether they tell you or not, they need the money. Now, again, the money's expensive, right? There's no way around it. However, it's easy, right? Easier, actually. You run a credit check, see what your processing volume is, and we can get you some capital. And then one of the things that our cash advance company that we deal with, everybody re-ups, right? Everybody, once you get somebody, they're going to always re-up. So now you've got the stickiness with that merchant. More than likely, they're going to stay with you for a long time, because as long as they've got the money, they're staying with you, right? And 90% of them, maybe even more than that, they re-up because they all need the money. And when you start talking like that, I guess they could. One of the things my wife says to me is like, well, why don't they just go to the bank? Well, okay, that great idea. If they could, they would, right? There's a million reasons why or why not, and you just have to find out what they are. And our money is easy. Again, expensive, sure, right? But easy and available. And it's just another, like you said, Nate, it's just another way of getting your foot in the door, and you getting people locked in and getting the stickiness. And I think it's a really good thing, because again, everybody needs the money.
Yeah, and what we don't realize is they're asking somebody. And I think we probably lose more merchants than we know, because someone came in with an MCA discussion and said, hey, we can get you some funding, and they switched their processing in order to get that funding when they had the opportunity the whole time. So making sure that your merchants know that you are a resource for that tool, and even other range of funding. Jason, we have lots of our partners who have created lots of different relationships with other types of funding, not just MCA, but even more going to a local bank and building a relationship and providing tools. I think our partners a lot of times should become referral agents for lots of other funding entities, especially if you find local sources and go to your local bank. What do you think, and what are you hearing from some of our partners that are doing that, Jace?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to touch on something that just popped into my brain real quick too before I answer that question, but you both have said it. I think the worst thing we can do is make it easy for somebody else to take our customer that we've worked hard for. So we've talked about dual pricing, right? We've talked about upgrading hardware. We've talked about cash advances, things like that. Even if you think There's no way my customer is going to need that. There's no way they're going to go to dual pricing. They don't want to spend more money on a new POS system. They don't need cash. Whatever the case is, I think it's absolutely important to let them know that that option is available to them through you. Even if they never take you up on it, the last thing you want to happen is the next guy to come in the door and offer them that cash advance or offer them a new cool system or dual pricing, and you lose that customer because you didn't even give them the choice. So I think it's important, again, to shift that mindset into a business consultant versus the payments person and say, hey, this might not be right for you, but I want you to know I can also offer you X, Y, and Z if you ever need it, because eventually they will. They will need it at some point, or they'll want it at some point. And when they do, they're going to remember that you offered it to them. So I think that that's important. And I'm so sorry, Nate. I don't now remember what the question was.
Oh, you're good. That was perfectly worded. I mean, so much of what we're doing in upselling is being defensive selling and making sure that everybody knows that you can know. You don't want to have that. And then I was saying the opportunity to, because a lot of our partners have built up opportunities. They have relationships with local banks or other lending funds, or like, we have a partnership with smallbusinessloans.com, and they have not only MCA, which is our most primary and easiest way because it's tied to your merchant processing, and so many of our merchants do, but they have relationships with other services that you could get that are even outside of the PayProTec world that they can recommend, and that consultant capacity is what I was trying to say. I was too fast. That consultant capacity, being able to, offer that. Can you think of some ideas of some of our partners who have built like relationships with other entities and been able to refer that over, and that just creates that stickiness and that loyalty to them?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to switch it. I can think of it in an opposite setting, and we
Yep.
use it in the recruiting world a lot. We look at partners who maybe aren't in payments, right, but have a book of business, insurance agents. I've got a really successful partner who did solar sales, digital marketing, things like that, where you're already talking to customers, you already have a merchant base. Again, creating stickiness, creating more income for you in adding something to the toolkit and being able to offer payment processing. You already have customers. So if you're an insurance agent or a solar salesperson or whatever the case is, you're doing marketing, you can go back to your customer base who already trust you and say, hey, I've got some payments opportunities now. And in addition to payments, I can also look at cash advances and this and this and this and this, and you're just creating stickiness, creating more income. I think it's a smart move to make if you're anywhere in this space where we're talking to business owners about their finances.
Yep. There's one common theme here, and I say it all the time, is you got to get out there and you got to work. No one ever said this was easy, but I do believe that it's worth it. It's lucrative. Again, compared to the way it was back in 2010 when I got into this business, a race to the bottom. We've talked about that before. I mean, there's a legitimate way to make money in this business, and you don't have to have 100 processing merchants. You can make a living off of 10 to 15 to 20 merchants. Just depending on how big they are and what kind of program you put them on. So I just think it's an exciting time. There's a lot that we offer that you guys can talk about in Atlanta as well. But you just have to get out there and get in front of people.
And you have to regularly get to looking at your portfolio. And I think one of the things even our most successful salespeople do, they forget to stop and look at and every once in a while. And it should be, the bigger you get, it's going to have to be a little bit more often you do it, because you'll do it in chunks of your business. So you may get to a place where you have 1,000 merchants, and once a month you're going to look at over 100 to 200 of them, and just make sure, do the eyeball test. Have you seen any changes? Make sure what Jason Lee said, you're getting those alerts, because the biggest way to make more money is not just to get more sales, but to keep the ones you've already had and increase the revenue that you have on them. We forget that so often. And in this industry, we fight churn, we fight competition. If spending 8 hours a month will make on battling, keeping your current merchants and increasing their revenue and increasing the products they get from you and making sure they know that they are cared for and that you're a place and a resource, man, it's going to make so much money.
Yeah.
Okay, so we haven't talked about all the things. So you can do gift cards as an upsell. You can do MCAs and other funding as an upsell. You can move them to a POS as an upsell. You can switch them to and change their pricing and get them into a dual pricing and edge world where suddenly they're paying less for their processing and you're making more. Have I missed anything other major upsells that I should have mentioned?
No, I think those are. I mean, I don't know if you missed any, Nate, but I mean, okay, let me tell you something. If you focus on the ones you just said, okay, you're gonna make yourself a lot more money. That's it. I mean, if you can just take those and start with those, and who knows what else it will lead into. Once you get into a conversation with people, again, like Jay said at the very beginning, listen, okay? Because the first, one of the biggest rules in sales is the first one who talks loses. So if you listen to people, again, people love to talk about themselves. If you listen to them, a lot of times they'll tell you exactly what they want, or maybe not exactly what they want, but they'll give you an idea, and then you can add on to that. And now you're in a real meaningful business like conversation.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I can't think of any. There's no downsides to this. I mean, maybe if something, you call them on a day that something's going wrong. If you wake up in the morning that you're planning to call all your merchants, and it happens to be a day that the Fed is down and it's not being deposits, maybe choose another day. That may be one, right? I mean, that happened this week. Hey, if things that are out of our control and they may have a negative feeling, maybe choose and put it off for 2 weeks. But there's no negative to this. There is only upside to taking care of your current merchants and making sure you have a relationship with them. As we close today, Jace, I think one of our partners, or most of our partners, probably get so focused on new business they forget to take care of it. And it's not. But are there any tips or tricks that you would give, or things that you've heard our partners doing that helps them do those things to make sure they're connecting with their current merchants?
Well, I have two things that I want to add real quick. One, besides, the Fed not funding first thing in the morning, like you were saying, if you do happen to call them on a day that something's going wrong, I kind of view that as an opportunity to shine, right? Like, this is how we fix it, and this is how quickly we can fix it. Between you as the partner and us and our team here, no, nobody likes when things go wrong. But man, it really creates an opportunity for us to drill home how good our team is, our partners and our team, when we're working together and we can fix a problem and make a customer happy. So that, to me, shifting that mindset to using this as an opportunity to show how good we are, I think is really cool. But the other thing, and Nate, you can mute me if you need to. I don't know how much we're allowed to tease here, but you're going to want to stay tied closely to PayProTec over the next few months if you aren't already. We've got some new hardware coming. We've been cooking up several cool new projects over the last few months that we'll be talking a lot about coming up. So I think, if anything, that's the tip or the trick, right? Just use our team, work together, let us help, ask the questions. But we've got some cool stuff coming up.
Awesome. Yeah, I would say that the tease on this ultimately is, if reach out to your relationship managers. If you're looking for something really new, there is a beta program going on right now that we're really excited for. And you never know when you might just get in. But I can promise you're all going to hear about it in the next several months. It is exciting. And we're just going to keep teasing. We're talking about it. Brian, this is actually, I realize we're off the next 2 Fridays because next Friday, we're just going to take the regular Friday off. And the following Friday, we'll be in Atlanta finishing up the conference there. But closing words for our High Five Nation. We'll be back in 3 weeks. We're going to do some live interviews that I think we're going to put hopefully on the feed on our YouTube channel from some people and partners that we're talking to down in Atlanta. But Brian, we're not going to talk to the people. So what's our challenge? The next time we talk, we're going into March Madness at full force. You'll have celebrated and be celebrating already getting back from Vegas and a full weekend of March Madness out in Vegas with your son. What's our challenge to our partners as we finish up the next 3 weeks and we're getting really close to springing out?
Well, you just said it, because the weather is breaking or has broken. I know, Jace, it snowed where you are, but I don't think that's a long lasting thing. And everybody understands that people don't like to get out when it's 20 below zero, and this has been just a brutal winter for people up north, and it's hard to get out and move around. But now that spring has sprung, there's never been a better time. To get yourself rejuvenated, to get yourself going. You look out the window. It's supposed to. This is daylight savings time. This Saturday night. So it'll be lighter later, a little bit easier to get yourself motivated. And yeah, I just think it's an exciting time to. It's just an exciting time of the year, I think.
It is.
That's right.
It's awesome. Well, Jason Lee, thank you for pinch hitting for Danny, coming in into the high five. You did a great job. It's awesome to have you.
Let me say one more thing. Okay, let me tell you this. Do you know who Wally Pip is?
You've told me, but I can't remember.
Okay, let me tell you who Wally Pip is. Wally Pip had a headache one day. Okay? He was the first baseman for the Yankees. You know who took his place? Lou Gehrig. Okay? Who played in 2,000 and a million games in a row.
So am I Lou Gehrig in this situation?
Okay, Jace.
You're the Hall of Famer.
You
or you're going to have a disease named after you. I don't know which.
Don't tell Dan that.
Lou Gehrig. And Danny Shard, he may be the next Wally Pip.
There you go.
Nobody does it better than Dan.
All right, and I am good. We had one question come in from JSOL2873. Maybe this is Jason Lee. It's our secret account. Are we able to integrate kiosk and self-service with PPT? And yes, we absolutely are. We have some great partners that are able to do that. Quick is our most used one, especially in the hospitality market. But Retail Cloud and Corona POS both have kiosk tools in the retail and the self-service market. They can do the NFC and all the stuff where you can, the RFID chips where everything just kind of looks and you scan your phone and you walk out. They can do all that both on Retail Cloud and Corona. And I believe Greta's rolling that out soon. So we have several options. That's why you go to the POS Pros. But man, it's a great thing. So I always like to make sure we answer a question if you ask it live. That's how we're going to end. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Jason Lee. Thank you all for who watched live and are watching afterwards. And we'll see you all in Atlanta on March 18th. High five, everybody.
Bye, guys.